All right. Number 11, Tennessee. Number 6, Alabama. Huge, huge matchup. Alabama's an 8.5-point favorite. The over-under I have is 24 Tennessee points. I realize there is an actual team total for this, and it's 24.5 on FanDuel last I checked. But why 24 points for Tennessee? Why is that the number? Well, it is the most points that Tennessee has scored in Tuscaloosa in its last 10 trips, all of which were losses. No Tennessee wins in Tuscaloosa since 2003. Worth noting, Josh Heupel was responsible for that 24-point effort. It came in a loss in 2021, sort of in a way. I remember, and I wrote about this I was filling in for Matt for the column that Matt Hinton usually does for us on SDS. And I wrote about how this felt like a coming out party for the Josh Heupel offense. And I do think we could look back on that with what they were doing with Hendon Hooker and think at the time, like, because they really respected Alabama defense. That was a pretty impressive year one performance. In the moment that we thought this is going to be legitimate with Josh Heupel, what he's doing. Well, Tennessee is the number one offense in America right now at 48 points per game.
And it feels that way. And it feels more legitimate than it has in other years.
And I realize you could take away, if you take away the non-offensive scores, which is part of it, they have 4 non-offensive touchdowns. It's 43.5 points per game. But
good.
Think about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, whatever. That's fine. If you had told me that in August, I would have laughed in your face. And we wondered if this was going to be a floor season for Tennessee. But think about this team that lost their top 3 in receiving. They lost 4 offensive linemen. They lost the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. Oh, by the way, they had a post-spring departure at QB1. And you look up, and Josh Heupel is the number one offense in America at the midway point of the season. How? It's truly remarkable. And I don't know that means that it gets them back to a college football playoff this year or anything like that. Schedule's still really difficult. Margin for error is going to be really slim, especially if they can't figure out some of these things on defense. But just the fact that we're bringing that up at this point of the season, Josh Heupel's an adult who gets it. And if you're a Tennessee fan that's going to be discouraged after this game and you're going to say, man, he just can't win these road games, just remind yourself of those things and remind yourself that's the type of thing that could happen for a Butch Jones season going into it. And then you would just watch a Butch Jones team score 10 points per game and just be a total disaster. It's just such a different era of Tennessee football. And I think stats like that are an important reminder.
Yes. And to be clear, I wasn't like poo-pooing your stat. I was just saying, like, good for them. They've been able to get those scores.
Yes.
Like, like it's, hey, would be nice to have, right? So that being said, I think this is going to be a very, very fun up and down game. Want to get a camera on Roll Tide Willie. I know a lot was made of him this offseason, but just slamming his fist into the table, because this is not going to be an old school SEC game. This is going to be two offensive coaches who have 2 quarterbacks who are dialed in, who are, again, operating inside the offense, outside of the offense with confidence. Again, 2 of the more confident quarterbacks in the SEC that know their guys, trust their personnel. I do think that some of the knock on the Josh Heupel offense, and I'll say it ad nauseum because it's an offense that I've studied at length because it's so fascinating to me. The kind of the roadblocks where, hey, particularly in SEC games, number one, and on the road, this offense can kind of sputter when it gets too locked in a phone booth, right? Well, Aguilar is exactly, we talked about it. He's the guy that is running so hard, he's taking out Arkansas's communications, right? Like, he is not going to just crumple in the pocket like we've seen.
That play is so funny to look back on. Like, I hope he's okay, and I hope it wasn't long-term damage, but that play was so ridiculous. That never happens.
That might be the play of his career that I remember him by, because he was like, well, all right, need to get back out there. Cool. And that's him. There is no Yamaliava looking at the sidelines like, what do we do, coach? Doing the sad into the Arkansas game. Like, that's not in Aguilar's vocabulary. He'll throw a pick, but he's going to go down swinging. And so point being, I think both of these quarterbacks are like that, where the offenses are awesome. All right. The talent is awesome. Some of the better receivers in the SEC. Who would have thought that we would like a Tennessee receiver better than an Alabama receiver going into this game? But I feel this way. Do you?
Chris Brazzell has had a heck of a season. Now, I think if you're doing schoolyard lineup, you're still probably taking Ryan Williams over Chris Brazzell.
Yep.
And I'm not Tennessee fans. I respect what Chris Brazzell has done this year. He has been awesome, and he's got better numbers every which way. I'm just saying, in a nutshell, if you're trying to pick which guy do you want, Tennessee fans will disagree with that. That's perfectly fine. But you're right. Like, you talk about Heupel. This is a huge "How do you like me now" opportunity for all the obvious reasons that we already laid out with the haven't won in Tuscaloosa since 2003, all of this goodwill that Alabama's that's been built up, and how you're trying to get back to the college football playoff and do so with a team that just had the slate wiped clean from an offensive standpoint. Also remember too, Ty Simpson was the 5-star quarterback from your state.
Good point.
That went to Alabama. That probably could have left at different points, that maybe at one point you're even interested in. I don't know how serious that was, but definitely was seen as a huge recruiting loss for Tennessee at the time and a huge recruiting gain for Alabama at a time when all of a sudden they're stacking these 5-star quarterbacks in ways that they weren't in the first part of the Saban era. And this is
Star Jackson disrespect.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, continue.
They weren't. They weren't stacking 5-star quarterbacks. There was a stat that came out about like if Ty Simpson was going to be on the roster at the same time as this guy, Bama would have, including Bryce Young, like 3 or 4 or 5-star. It didn't end up shaking out like that, but you get what I'm saying. But I think if you're looking at what's going to determine this matchup, we're once again going into a competitive game, another AP Top 25 team for Alabama, in which we're wondering, are they going to stop an efficient rushing attack? Perhaps more importantly, maybe stop isn't the right word. Can you limit that rushing attack by keeping it off the field and being good defensively on first down, that's going to be really important for this Alabama defense because you're trying to keep a team like Tennessee behind schedule. Alabama has allowed 9 runs of 20 yards in SEC play, easily the worst in the SEC. Easily the worst. Only one of 3. They're one of only 3 SEC teams that has allowed more than 4 runs of 20 yards in conference play. Who's one of those other teams, Will? Tennessee.
Yeah, I was about to say. It's so weird to say that about these two teams, too, because one thing we could have hung our hat on for the last, I don't know, at least the Josh Heupel era, at least, outside of, was it like a Pitt game they had where that random running back, Abadakanda, ran all over them? Outside of that, I feel like the running backs have not beaten them.
Yeah, and it's just not necessarily been an Achilles heel, but this year it definitely has been. You can run on Tennessee. The question is whether Alabama wants to do that or not. Not sure about Jam Miller as of this recording on Wednesday. We're recording this at 12:15.
He got smoked, man.
Dude,
I would be so mad if I was a Bama fan. He got that was a little bit of yeah.
How is that not targeting? We should have brought that up the other day. I thought that was textbook targeting on that play.
Yeah, when you win, the bad officiating doesn't get brought up as much. That's a really good point because maybe it was kind of a makeup call for like the other one or whatever. But I mean, Mizzou was like laying some lumber. That's the thing.
Yeah, that was a big time hit he took on that 4th down conversion. Will, Bama has run the ball at least 38 times in the 3 games since he's been back, and not just with Caden Proctor. They have been, and by the way, Caden Proctor only having a PFF rushing grade of 66.6.
Disgusting. He's a specialist. All right.
Get out of here. The man made a jump cut. He made a jump cut at 366 pounds. 66.6.
The PFF grade has to take into account BMI. All right.
Come on. Give us some context. Pound for pound. No, you can't say that because he's heavy. But you get what I'm saying.
Reverse pound for pound.
Reverse pound for pound. Those yards matter. Bama's just been more run heavy than I think some people realize amidst this Ty Simpson emergence. And that balance has really allowed Ty Simpson to see the field effectively. I think it's helped. And Ty Simpson, I think you've brought this up on the show before. We need to revisit it after what we heard about this week. He sounds like Saban, man. He sounds just like his former coach. Saw this tweet from Charlie Potter. Caden Proctor said Simpson ripped the team on Monday. Ripped them in a team meeting. He's so critical of himself after these games. If you watch him with his media availability where he's got like the stats and he's looking over, he's just like shaking his head. Like, dude, you're the Heisman Trophy favorite now, right? You used to be 3 consecutive AP Top 25 teams, 2 of which were away from home. You made some big-time throws. No, not good enough.
I hear the Nick Saban in the background. I'm not going to do the voice, but I hear the hand motion start to come out. Oh, Heisman, we're going to hang that banner. Like, I love Ty Simpson, man. There's so much to like about this Alabama team. It really upsets me how likable this Alabama team is.
Do you think someone tells Ty Simpson something good he did and he just rattles off 6 ites in a row? That's the only thing that's preventing him from being just Saban 2.0.
His girl's like, hey, you took me to a nice dinner. He's like, hey, we're trying to be one another day. Focus on the little things. My parking job wasn't great. I had to hit a 4-point turn in there, and I love that. I mean, leadership has to come from somewhere, specifically in the transfer portal era. And again, Ryan Grubb, Ty Simpson, Caden Proctor as a leader, Braille's like the leadership and the resilience this team has had has been awesome. So again, just for both of these teams, it's kind of the program. Like this is kind of a how deep is our brand and how deep is our leadership following the FSU loss, following the loss of Yamaleava and the Georgia loss on the other side. These are two sturdy programs as we see here in 2025.
It's funny because Jalen Milroe came on the show and he said the moment he realized that Kalen DeBoer was different than Nick Saban was when he made a really nice touchdown pass in practice, and Milroe wasn't celebrating afterwards, and DeBoer was like, "What are you doing, man? Like celebrate, enjoy it." Simpson's the last breed. He's the last of a dying breed.
Do you think
He's
calms Kalen DeBoer down? Like, do you think that Kalen
Yes.
DeBoer is clapping at practice and Ty Simpson just looking at him like, what are you excited about? This is the practice field, son.
Do you remember the GIF a few years ago from Dan Mullen on the sideline with Felipe Franks? And Dan is doing this like dorky dance and he's trying to get Felipe to loosen up a little bit. That's Kalen DeBoer and Ty Simpson behind closed doors.
Yep.
Maybe in public. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Saban's watching them from the bridge of the stadium like the Death Star, like, good, my son.
Right. Good. This is how I've trained you. Speaking of Saban, Will, you know what he never did? God, people are going to take this the wrong way. Nick Saban never, because I don't think he ever had the opportunity to do this, beat 4 AP top 25 teams in consecutive weeks without a single bye week in between. That is what Alabama is setting out to do on Saturday. This is a revenge game for Alabama. Forget about just the black hoodie, which, by the way, Kalen DeBoer is 13-2 in that black hoodie. He's 18-3 against AP top 25 teams since he became a power conference head coach, which now this is year 4 of that. We're including his 2 years at Washington. He's 24-0 in home games. 24-0.
Insane.
Add another one of those totals.
Insane.
That's darn good. It's darn good. I think Alabama wins this one 35-24. Yes, I picked 24 specifically for Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's the first Bush administration, right? Where you talk about 2003 and the 24-point streak, and it just again goes to show the time. It's so funny, again, not to compare these two coaches, guys, but the Saban stuff, it was that he got hot so early after year one. We don't count year one coaches, right, because of Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, right? And so it was that he got hot so early and he stayed so consistent. The DeBoer stats are like limited sample size horror. It's like, I hope this guy takes a step back, and he kind of did last year. But that being said, I think this is an up and down game, but I think that given what we've seen in Alabama, given what we've seen out of that building, we've seen how much of an effect that the building had last year in this game. So that being said, like I do pick Bama, and honestly, 35 almost feels low against this Tennessee defense. I think it could be 24, maybe into like a 28 or like a 31 for Tennessee, but then Bama is like getting into the upper 30s or 40s because I think Ty Simpson's going to show up with a little tucked in lobster bib ready to go on this defense, man.
Tennessee needs to get those corners back healthy, man. They just do. Just do.